46th and 63rd Street, which, to go a little bit about the history, well, first of all, most of you might know this as SEPTA, or like the main line on the Market Franklin's preferred line when you go down to 69th Street. And basically how it started was in the history of early 19th century, there's a lot of merchants like carriage makers, blacksmiths, and those people who would stay around there, those commerce buildings. They were very popular around those areas. And then around the 1840s, there were some speculators and like people who wanted to sell land like better, or sell residential buildings for like more money. They would come along towards that area, and they'd try to buy those buildings right there to make profit out of those. So they were very popular around those times. And mostly during the end of the 19th century is when the projects were starting to become made for the railroad to be built along Market Street, 46th and 63rd Street. And basically, like what started off was that a lot of opposition was made for that railroad to be made. It was, obviously went through the main part of the street right here, where lots of merchants would be.
On Market Street, straight up Market Street.
Yeah, right, straight up Market Street, and there are also during that time in the 1890s, there's people who were wealthy, who would own cottages around those areas. They would actually be it would be replaced by middle class people who would eventually live there around the time of the construction of the railroad, which also further displaced them even more to more areas, would cause more lower class people to live in those areas. But the main thing is that in the 1890s, there was a company named Dane Zimmerman Incorporated where they had a plan. They had 4 plans, but they had 2 major plans that they were focusing on. One of them is called Plan B, one of them is called Plan B. One of them, the comparison of that, and the main idea, what I get out of this is that one of them was slightly expensive and caused more of the time come in right there, and the other one was more of a cheaper, less time later there. But they showed the concern over the construction of the railroad because a lot of people will be displaced. They also reviewed that it would cause many changes in the community, and around that time, a lot of people would not really care about that stuff. And the significance of that is that they cared about making a railroad. And during the early 1900s, which was 1904, 07, which is when the railroad was made all the way from 46th to 63rd Street, and to 69th Street, and then.
Now remember, when he's saying the railroad, he's really talking about the subway. He's talking about the Market Street subway.
Yeah,
there was a railroad at 32nd and Market Street, big railroad.
Yeah, but then obviously when it comes to the subway, it goes up to the higher level railroad.
It came out of the ground. It came out of the ground at 22nd Street and came on top of the ground all the way up to 69th Street. But the pace he's looking at is when in this 1970s, 80s, there was an attempt to try to remodel or take over a lot of that land from 46th Street to 69th.
Yeah.
Is this your crowd?
Yeah, come on, Mark.
I thought I was going to have to keep you guys down.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess now, in the present time, now people commonly use this as going down to around the city, going down to 69th Street to branch off to other regional railroads. And there's also additions in the community, and how they try to expand themselves into later in the 50th streets, or another hospital, hospital branch, other commerce buildings like that, but it's mostly used for transportation nowadays.
Well, almost 20 years or more of this constant trying to rebuild Market Street destroyed houses. People live on Market Street, and people had business along that area, and it has never reclaimed what it used to be prior to all that construction. Now, Mark, we're just finishing up. Go ahead. Okay.
You want me to tell them to be quiet?
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
I think
We're talking about the Market Frankfurt.
yeah.